Hey, and two picklers coming to you from Grover Park in Sanford, Florida today. Want to talk to you today a little bit of strategy. I want to talk to you today about something called an X. So if you think about a pickleball court and you superimpose an X over it, starting basically serve each server to each returner or vice versa. So there's an X on the court like this between the different players, diagonally placed over the court. And basically what I'm going to talk to you about is how you got to respect that X. Most of the time you have to allow the player on the other end of the X to take the ball that's coming along that axis of the X. So we'll look at some slides that'll illustrate the X. We'll put an X on the court and show you a little bit of movement on the slide so you can see how it works and conceptualize it. And then we'll show some demonstration videos at the end. It's a video that we did with our friends Jim and Jake, helped us out at the Griffin tournament a month or so ago, where we basically did some footage to show you how the X works and what happens when you break the X. Let's get into it.
First, we're going to put the X on the court. This purple X that we've placed on here shows you the connection between the servers and the returners. You can see how the return here will basically, in this scenario, will come along one arm of the X. Here it's easy to see who should hit the return ball, who should hit the third shot, which is the server in this case, because of how far over the shot is. Usually the issue arises when the shot's a little bit closer to the middle. So let's put this next ball a little bit closer to the middle, the next return. So you can see this shot here is the kind of shot that sometimes the server will take it, sometimes the non-server will take it. And the X helps analyze who should take this shot in this situation. It also helps at the kitchen, but here we're focusing on the serve and return of serve. Specifically, what we're trying to figure out here is who should handle the return of serve, whether it should be the server taking the third shot or the non-server taking the third shot. Thinking about an X on the court helps conceptualize or provide a framework for who should handle that shot. It's the player on the other end of the X-axis. In this case, that would be the server. So there's two reasons for this. One is that the ball is traveling towards the server, meaning that the server, it's easier for the server to execute the shot because the ball is traveling into the server's body. The non-server has to come over and reach over to hit the ball away from their body. It's a little harder to execute that sort of shot. Second reason is that when the non-server moves over like that, it creates an opening on the court behind the non-server, which the returning team can sometimes take advantage of. What will happen here is you'll see that the non-server will move over, hit a third shot into the middle. The returning team will move over and put the ball away. Let's look at some demonstrations that Jake and Jim helped us video for you. Don't worry, we're going to repeat these in slow motion. There's two here. There's one where Jill takes it and the other one where Jake comes across the X and takes it. So slowing it down, you'll see in the first one here how the ball basically comes back into Jill's body, towards her body, and she can take an easier third shot there. In the second one, you'll see how Jake comes over, crossing the X and reaching over to hit the ball. You'll see it's a little bit harder because he has to come over, then he has to reach out and hit that ball, whereas the other way it was coming into Jill's body. Let's look at the same concept again from the other side. This time Jake is serving. The first time it comes into him, he hits it. The second time Jill comes across and hits it. We'll do these in slow motion again so you can see it a little more clearly. In the first one, you'll see how Jake and Jill respect the X, and Jake handles the return, dealing with the third shot coming into his body, making for an easier third shot by Jake. The second shot in this sequence, I want you to notice how the return will actually land on Jill's side of the court, on the Jill side of the middle of the court. You'll see how it's going to land here in a second, and on her side of the court, see how it lands right there on her side, but it's still traveling along the X-axis towards Jake, making it easier for Jake to deal with that shot. This last one here, we'll look at how the court opens up behind Jill here and how the ball can be put away. We'll do it again in slow motion here. So Jake serves, Jill will come across the X to get the ball. It'll leave an opening behind her to her right, and then the returning team will basically just put that ball away behind her for the winner. As with most rules in pickleball, the concept of the X is not a hard and fast rule that has to be applied every single time. It's simply a framework or a way of thinking about the strokes in pickleball and improving your chances to win.
And so I want you to think about that next time you're out on the court, how many times reaching across the X or breaking the plane of the X causes an error or causes a player to be out of position. You can subscribe if you hit the yellow button. I think we got a wrap today. I think the train's coming.